Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire to the co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, too hot for TV. We are covering in these chapters 20 and 21, Brienne and The Queenmaker. In both cases, we've got women with plans that do not go the way they intended. One of them seems to go a lot better than the other, though, to be fair. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, so just before we started, you said this fucking Brienne chapter.
It
Finish
went
your
on
thought
forever.
It's a very
was
long chapter.
So long, and it did not need to be as long as it was, you guys. I'm sorry. I understand that we get a shocking end, you know, but didn't need to be as long as it was. It just didn't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking, and this is sort of like, you know, the thing that everybody is always joking about, not just with this series, but like honestly, most series, as you go on in a lot of series, the books just get longer and longer as you continue. And in a lot of ways, it's understandable because the plot is getting more and more like complex, and sometimes there's different character POVs. But also I do think that if a series is proved to be like pretty successful and people get very invested in a character or certain characters, plural, the author can go a little bit hog wild with adding like extras that aren't super crucial because they have earned the like loyalty of their readers, and they know that they care about these people enough that they will indulge them because they kind of want to know all of these extras, you know?
Right.
But I don't feel like a character like Brienne is there yet. We don't know her very well. So
not only, in my opinion, is Brienne not quite there yet, but Dick definitely wasn't there yet. And when but when I got to the end of the chapter, my first thought was, okay, so this was really being sort of dragged out because George knows that at the end of the chapter, I'm about to have this motherfucker get his skull crushed in. So it was almost like he was trying to make me care about.
He was pulling a Walking Dead. Do you remember that? That was like their hallmark. You knew a character was going to die when the whole episode centered around them, and they had never given a shit about this person up until this one episode. And all of a sudden you found out that he had a daughter and that he used to be a teacher, and you were like, oh, okay, this motherfucker dead.
The fucking accuracy. I haven't really thought about The Walking Dead in ages, but yes, you are correct. And that's
all
what
right.
This felt like. That's really what this felt like. And I'm not even saying that George was trying to get me to like Nimble Dick, but he was trying to make me have some feeling about him one way or the other so that I would give a fuck when his head got smashed in. And you guys, I really didn't. I loved watching Brienne kill those motherfuckers, but it didn't have
so
anything to do with Dick. Like if she had just, I can't keep talking about Dick like this. I can't. So I'm going to just start calling him Crab, and we're not going to have a conversation about it.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
So I would have been as satisfied if she had just rolled up on Shagwell and Pig and the other guy without having Crab be murdered. right? If she had just, her and Pod had been on their merry way and rolled up on these dudes, and she had an opportunity to slaughter them because they fucking had it coming.
Yeah, they did.
So that I enjoyed. There was another part of this chapter that I really enjoyed too, which was there's a moment when she's, let me think. I think I don't know if she's dreaming or just remembering, because there's also a dream that she has. But at one point in the chapter, Brienne is remembering or dreaming about fighting the various men that teased her in Renly's.
Oh yes, I think that might be a combo of a memory and a dream. You know how that'll happen?
Yeah, right. And the thing that really jumped out at me too is that sequence ends with her relishing a fight she had with Loras. But it doesn't say who was victorious, unless I just completely missed it when I was reading.
No, I noticed that as well. Yeah.
So do we know about this? Like, because I was thinking, we know Jaime met Loras one time and Loras got the upper hand.
Right.
But now we know, or we've been told, that Brienne and Loras had a go, but we don't know who won. And I am desperate. I want to know, like, did she beat Loras? But yeah, anyway, so that but that part was really cool. Just like her, and the way she's phrasing it too, is that she's fighting these men because she is so, like, she's furious. And when she gets an opportunity to go one-on-one, she just fucking wrecks them, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And I absolutely lived. And the idea, and then she says, when she's fighting Loras, she says something like, he wasn't involved in, like, making a mockery of me. He wasn't a part of that. But he had roses on his shield, and I hate roses. And it was like but also, like, the idea, because we know that Loras loved Renly, and we know Brienne loved Renly, and so I just inserted some subtext to that fight that may or may not exist, which is the idea of both of them, you know, being jealous of the other, you know.
Yeah.
Or at least Brienne being, you know, like, I don't know how much Brienne knows, you know, Loras and Renly. I don't think
she knows at all.
Right?
Yeah.
So if her jealousy would be not necessarily based on a romantic relationship that Loras and Renly had, but the closeness of their relationship, even as like King and Kingsguard, you know, because Loras was like the number one dude right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved just thinking about her just fucking knocking each one of these assholes on their butt, you know, just in front of everybody and God, you know, I loved it.
Yep.
But then there's just an awful lot of traveling in this Brienne chapter. There's a lot of Crab just getting on my nerves. He just never seems to shut up, and that just wears me down in real life and in the books that I read. It just fucking wears me out.
Yeah, and it's a sort of thing where I'm like, maybe that's successful writing, because he wants us to feel the way that Brienne feels, which is just, oh my God, this guy, I swear to God. And we've been traveling forever, and I'm starting to get really impatient. But there does come a point where it's like, I don't need to feel exactly how the main character feels. It's okay if you don't do it, you know?
It's not a ride.
It's not fun to read. You know,
it doesn't have to be a completely immersive experience.
Exactly. And I think that I had a little like argument, not about Brienne's POVs. There's a different POV that there's like a sort of lag. I had an argument with Brendan way back where I was saying like, well, that's the point. You're supposed to feel that. And Brendan was trying to be like, yeah, but that's not fun to read. And I was just like, well, it's not supposed to be fun to read. Like, that's the point of it. And now I'm getting what he meant, which is just, it's, you need to keep it entertaining enough that I want to keep going.
Yes. Yes.
You know, something can be difficult or get across a sense of tedium without making you feel like the book is tedious.
Yep.
So,
and it's a fine line that is, you know, that writers stumble over a lot of times.
Yeah.
And this is just like, for me, this is one of those examples. But there were plenty of little moments that I did enjoy. And I guess to your argument, your earlier argument, your past you argument of that it's supposed to be tedious, and then the moments that are enjoyable really pop, because they're breaking up the tedium. So I found that I was surprisingly, even though I think he was like a little full of shit, I enjoyed some of Crabbe's history lessons.
Yes.
And I found myself referring to the map to see exactly like where they're going, and this place Crack Claw that he's talking about, and seeing like where they are in relation to the bigger places. Also, I don't know if we probably talked about it at the very beginning of this book, but you guys know I can't always remember shit, right? So when I went back to the map for to find out where exactly they were and to read about Crack Claw and all that jazz, I saw that the map in this book has a map of the. Sorry, my pages are sticking together. Sorry, guys. It has
What are you doing while you read this book, Rashawn?
Jesus Christ. It has a map of the North, a map of the South, and the Iron Islands, and that's it. So those are going to be the only places we visit then this whole book, right? That's right. That's it. That's it. So I don't know why I was so fucking slow on the uptake, but I had a whole telling you who I thought we were going to see and who we weren't going to see. Well, very clearly, we're going to see the motherfuckers that are in the North, the South, or the Iron Islands.
Listen, I don't blame you for that. I don't go looking at the map for clues about whose POV is going to be completely left out of the book. Like, I don't think anybody quite realized exactly how hard George was going to go on splitting this shit in half, So, yeah, it's fine. I'm not mad at you for that at all.
I felt like a real doofus, though. I have to tell you all that.
And the thing that's I think he's trying to do as well in this section is emphasize how suspicious Brienne is. And the reasons for her suspicion are completely valid. It's not like this is coming from some unreasonable place that's just a natural born suspicion of her personality. No, this is the kind of suspicion that comes of being mocked and bullied and threatened constantly because you're a woman.
Yep.
And it really I was thinking about, and I don't remember how much we talked about it, but the concept of people pretending to be into you because it's a joke that you would ever be attracted to a person. And I realized a little a few months ago that I had a weird combination of on the one hand, understanding that I was attractive when I was in high school, but also having this constant terror that I was being secretly made fun of. And it was because I did experience that when I was in middle school, because I was a real I was not cute in middle school. Most of us aren't, but some lucky people are. Some are
cute in middle school. Well,
there's a type of cuteness.
Yeah, you're right.
And I just did not. I was a troll right up until freshman year of high school. So I had there was a time where I was 22. I was out of high school. I had gone to college, all this stuff. And I still was coping with this deep sense of paranoia. And I went to you join a gym and you get a free session of personal training. And
I've heard.
I had always considered myself very not athletic, even though I definitely was, but that's a whole other conversation. And I came in and the young dude who was going to be training me gave me this smile. And now looking back, I realize he thought I was hot and was excited. Oh, sweet. I get to train a hot chick. At the time, I was so used to being made fun of, and not even I say that, but it had happened only a few times. So that's how much it embeds itself in your brain. I can't imagine when you're Brienne and it's fucking all anybody says to you ever. But I thought he was laughing at this like doofy girl who was coming in to try and like be hot at the gym, like trying to, you know, I thought it was a mocking smile. And he kept like behaving weirdly with me as he was training me, and asked me if I like, because he was like encouraging me to do more sessions. And I interpreted that as, yeah, you should really come to the gym more because you could stand to lose some weight and you're clearly out of shape. What he was trying to do was, one, sell me something, and two, he was like kind of into me, and I was not fucking seeing it. And I didn't until literally years later. And I just think all the time about how like I had this weird crossing of wires, and it only was a couple instances of very light bullying in comparison to what I know a lot of people went through. Yeah. And it still fucked my head up like permanently, basically. Brienne, I mean, it's got to have rewired her entire brain. All she can see is this now, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And then you add on top of that, you add additional spices on top of that stew of the threat of physical violence, of sexual violence at every turn. And it makes 100% sense why she does not trust men, and except the ones that are almost noble to the point of not even being real humans anymore, which ends up coming up when she's talking to Crab about the perfect night. And Crab is basically mocking and laughing at this. But Brienne's, since her like ideals are so lofty, you know, that the only men she can respect occupy this place of almost mythic nobility. Yeah. You know, they are so far
are gay, because Renly was the one that she loved, and he had no sexual interest in her and wouldn't have threatened her in that way. And whether she knew he was gay, I think she could at least sense that wasn't a factor for him, you know?
That sort of menacing energy that most men seem to carry with them, that they are unaware that they even carry. That's a separate conversation to have maybe one day with men. I don't know if you all, and I mean you all, understand the type of energy that you can carry that you are not even aware that you're carrying, you know, and that women pick up on because we're trained to for survival, which is why, you know, a lot of times when we react to men, they are oblivious. Like, wait, what? Why would you think that? Or why would you be nervous? Or, you know, because they don't have to move through the world the way we have to move through the world. So I think maybe you're right that, I don't know if it's because he's gay or not. I don't know if I want to say that, but that sort of nebulous energy that can exist that's born out of like sexual attraction, urges, that mixes with like power. If you're, you know, have power over somebody, whether it's strength, physical power, or whatever. Yeah, because when you talk about like, you know, whether she had a literal understanding that Renly was gay or not, but she probably, like, we don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like she knew, but the energy he would have been carrying would have been very different, I think, from that particular type of menacing energy that men can have, you know. So we talked a little bit about this last time, so we don't have to go into a whole thing about it, but we talk about like being bullied and not trusting people's good intentions because they turn out to not be good intentions, you know. That sort of, people are being nice to me, people are helping me, but then it turns out it's because I'm a joke to them and they're laughing about it behind my back. That is something that when you talk about rewiring somebody's brain, you know, that in itself, whether it's based on because they think she's ugly, or it could, you know, people can behave like that for all kinds of reasons. It happens to be that, you know, she's physically unattractive. So that's the thing that people like latched on to as a way to humiliate her. But really, that just sort of basic distrust, because people that you respect that smile to your face and then turn out to be, you know, backstabbing, horrible people, that's going to change the way you interact with everyone for the rest of your life, you know?
Yep.
And yeah, there's so many moments in her chapter where she is worried about what Crab is capable of doing. And there's the moment where they're standing on the cliffs as they get really, really close to the Whispers, and she has a thought of like, he could just push me right over. And he puts like his arm around her shoulder or something, and she's like, don't you fucking touch me. You know, one of the nights was they're traveling, she has Pod, like she asked Pod, I need you to stay awake and keep an eye on me and wake me up if he even does anything. And really, there's also Crab being, and I don't know what this is, guys. I think, but I could be reading it wrong, but I think this is just supposed to be kind of how obnoxious and unpleasant he is, as opposed to how dangerous he is. But he has multiple moments of being like, can I sleep in the bed with you? You're making me sleep all on the floor. And it's like creepy and gross, but for some reason, I don't think that it's supposed to suggest that he's dangerous and maybe he would. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it really wrong. But it didn't feel like sexual advances or threats of sexual violence, if you understand what I mean. You know, it's gross and creepy, and I didn't like it, but it was more like, oh, this fucking guy just whines about everything. He just wants to not sleep on the floor. It's not that he wants to be in the bed with her, you know. And it happens later when they're in the barn and her and Pod go to the loft and he has to sleep like on the hay on the floor. And he's like kind of whining and crying about it then too.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be like the bed that she is relegating him to is the one that's shared by a bunch of strangers. And he's basically like, can I just stick with you guys and have it instead of having to go lay in the bed with a bunch of fucking like randoms? That'd be better. He
even says, I'll sleep on the floor. But like, let me just come upstairs with you. And she's like, absolutely not. And just like slams. Well, she doesn't. I don't know if she slams it, but she shuts the door in his fucking face.
I hear a slam in my head. Yeah.
I feel like a slam was implied, right?
Yeah.
Even though like now I'm picturing like the kind of place they were in and what kind of shape the door was in. And like,
the door wouldn't be strong enough to slam. The dog whooshed. Or the door. Just that thing. That's how my doors are, because they're that balsa wood that's really light. There's no weight to them. You can't slam these doors unless you like yank on them. That's the only way.
Our doors are in the old apartment. They were like that. They're heavier here, but not heavy enough that they're heavy enough that they slam, but they're not heavy enough that if a good gust of wind comes through, that shit's going. That's when the door
stay
slams.
Open.
Yeah, like if a gust of wind will come through and that shit will slam so fucking hard. So it's heavy enough to be loud, but not heavy enough to be like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Wind, mind your business. Yeah.
We have such a hard time being dramatic when we're poor. It's really not fair.
Listen, I still have not fully recovered from the fact that you cannot really hang up on somebody anymore because we're all on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no slamming of the receiver.
That's why
you write that in a book and people are like, receiver? What's that?
I had like at work, I can still, have an actual phone on my desk. So I can slam the fuck out of that shit. And I do. But after the people have hung up, like the call is because it's weird. Like the phones are routed to software on the computer. So you can disconnect the call but still have the receiver in your hand, Okay. So I'll disconnect the call and then I'll slam the fuck out of the receiver. And if you really piss me off, I'd shake it in the cradle so it makes noise, so it rattles.
Extra emphasis. The first slam, that was the exclamation point. That's the period at the end. And stay out.
Oh God, you guys. All right, but so I also want to mention honorable mention to Podrick in this Brienne chapter because anytime he's told to like stay behind, but I can fight. I'm a squire. I can fight, and it's very cute.
Oh, Pod. I mean, he does wind up being kind of like clutch later. Absolutely. It's not like he isn't worth anything.
Exactly. But... at the end of this chapter, we are reminded that it's always good to have a pod if you can have one. Like if you have access to a pod, go ahead and get you one.
Out of context, still works. I say. I'd like a pod full of goo that I could just retire to.
And we've circled back to the goo conversation that you and I had like
goo.
2 hours ago.
Rashawn was talking about how her pages were stuck together, and I was like, bad.
But so they are, we're reminded that this whole journey is because Crabbe is taking Brienne, to meet the fool that he fooled, and he's taking them to this place called Crackclaw, which is where he told the fool and his companions that they could find smugglers. But it's a big old joke because this is like a dead end. He sent them on a goose chase. Yeah. There are no smugglers to be found. He took their gold and sent them on their way. And I like that it doesn't occur to him until like the night before they get there that he's like,
I was so surprised that when she suggests that he come with them, that this doesn't enter his head. It doesn't even fucking occur to him.
Not even
until they're almost there. Like,
and then he's like, these people might not be happy to see me. I can't get over how long it took him to make this connection. And then her answer to him is basically, well, I'm going to pay you in gold, so maybe you can pay them their money back and save your life. Because she doesn't really give a fuck about any of this.
She doesn't. No. She's just like, well, sucks to suck. I'll do what I can. No guarantees. Kind of your own fault. That's what you get. Played yourself.
Right, really. So the whole chapter is just him regaling them with, the history of his people, which is quite fantastic. He talks about, where he comes from, and basically the people that he descends from were on the side of the Targaryens, because there's a moment where he's talking about the kings, and he says something like, and I'm talking about true kings, not that fucking Robert asshole.
Yeah, I really did like that. And his ilk is the way he says it. And I wanted to be like, actually, those aren't his ilk. I know that you think they are his ilk.
Turns out.
Common misconception.
But yeah, so we get like a little bit of history about these people that I didn't really, I don't know too much about. They haven't really come up before. And I like that he says that when I don't know if he says it or if it's just I think it's him saying it, that all these families, when they all got together and like fought for Eris or bent the knee to, is it Nymeria who he says comes, or is it Visenya? Is Visenya maybe?
I think Visenya is the one who comes to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all decide to like, take a knee to her, and then were kind of left to rule themselves. Long as they didn't like get too big for their britches, is my understanding of this whole thing.
Exactly.
And there's all these like great names that he's naming, and there's a point where he is telling Brienne about somebody in particular. I forget the name, and she does not know who this person is, and he is beside himself. He cannot believe what do you mean you haven't heard of so and so the Great? And she's just like, yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know what to tell you. So then
it's like when I mentioned Salt and Pepper to Owen, and he says, "Who?" And I'm just like, "What? How are we?"
So then she counters with, first she's just like, every little fucking piece of shit town's got some local guy they won't shut the fuck up about.
Yep, basically.
And then she brings up hers, right? And I think hers, that's when the perfect night story comes up. And so the perfect night story, there's this guy, I forget his name, and he is given like this amazing sword. This sword is like magic, and he can fight anybody with it and kill the dragon with it, but wouldn't fight a mortal man. And Crab is like, why the fuck not? And she's like, honor. Like, it wouldn't be a fair fight. And he thinks this is the most asinine shit he has ever heard. What do you mean he won't fight with this fair fight? What kind of shit is that? What an asshole that guy is. And he's just laughing and laughing.
Oh, that cracked me up so bad. He's just like, you know what? I bet that my mythical hero could beat the shit out of your mythical hero.
Right,
then he would feel like a real dodo bird because he could have just used his magical sword.
That's what he says. He'll take his head, because he's got this whole thing about the Whisperers are called the Whisperers because they're haunted, and there's like these heads that are just on shelves talking. So he's like, his head will be telling the other heads, I should have used the fucking sword.
I did like that.
Yeah, that was
joke.
pretty good. Yeah. So there were some moments that broke up the sort of tediousness of this journey. But like we were saying before, we had a little snafu there. Crab has not really given attention to the fact that he is about to come face to face with the people he conned.
Right.
And it took entirely too long for him to get to this moment. And by the time he gets there, Brienne does not give a fuck about it. It's too late. We're already going to be here. And then they get closer, and the two things happen. Once they get to kind of where they're going, first they have to go through this, like, I forget what the castle is called, but they kind of go like through somebody's keep.
Right.
And we're told that, I think it's Bloons or Bruns. I don't know.
I do not remember.
And she's concerned about, like, you know, will the people behind the keep let us in? We're armed, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, all the soldiers are gone. All the sons are gone. This place has got old people and babies. And they go through there, and then they get to the Whispers, and they notice as they're like climbing up this mountainside, I guess, that they're being followed. There's
not great news.
Not great news. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first they've noticed somebody following him, unless I forgot something from an earlier POV.
No, I'm pretty sure that's correct.
And
did you have any theories on who it was?
Well,
what was going on here?
I'm going to tell you the truth, you guys. I really just thought it was nobody. I just really was like, there's just somebody else. Because they were so close.
So that she was like paranoid about something that it turned out to be completely innocent and nothing to do with her, basically.
That's what I thought when they first, because they're just making their way through this keep. And one of the things I think Crab is like, it's probably just somebody on their way back up to this place or something. And I was like, you know what? Sure. That seems right. Because I just couldn't think of why would anybody be following them? Like, who cares about Brienne? You know, just and her weirdo seems mean, but you guys know what I mean. Her weird mission that she is on that no one cares about really except her. So I just didn't really think anybody would be following her like on purpose. But and then they finally make it up there, and they see like evidence that people have been here very recently. Like there's a leftover cook fire, and they're just like, all right, somebody is here or was just here. And I was thinking that whoever was here was already gone. I wasn't expecting for them to still be here. So when they jump out, one, I was shocked that they were like still there, because also I'll tell you guys, because Crab had let us know so early on that this was a fucking bullshit mission and map that he'd given away. I kind of thought that whoever they were going to find would be gone by now, because why would they wait around if it was so obvious that this was not a thing? I didn't consider that. the men Shag and Pig and the other guy Timian.
Temior?
Yeah, that's
Can't remember.
the third guy.
Find it.
I think it's Timian. I think it's an N at the end. But it didn't occur to me that they would still just be hanging out at this place, because why? And we find out later when we meet them that they're out of really options. They don't really have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm,
But that hadn't really occurred to me yet. So I was surprised that they were still there. And they were surprised to have company.
Yes. Because this is a very isolated spot. It's like, why would anybody show up here?
Yeah, and like the fact that they are camping out here where there's nothing around, and like I don't know how they're taking care of themselves. I don't know how they're living, how they're eating. I don't know what the fuck they're doing to survive here. But they've been camped out at this place, the Whispers, in this little like cave for well, it's difficult to say time wise, but you know, you gotta figure a couple weeks, 2 weeks,
seems like it.
2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
And so they show up, and at first these guys like they try to hide. I don't know if they thought that they were going to be able to hide completely, or they were just trying to gain like an advantage in a position. But it becomes clear that people are there. She actually spots somebody hiding, and eventually they have to like reveal themselves, and we find out, you know, we get confirmation of exactly who it is that they have found. And it's 3 of the men we know from, what was their name? Brave Companions?
Yes, exactly. The Bloody Mummers.
These assholes.
That's all you have to say. You don't need to remember their title.
These fucking murderous, sadistic, rapey assholes.
Yep.
That's who's here after this long ass journey with this really unpleasant guy through lots of rain. This is our reward. This is what we work so hard for, y'all. These guys. And let me see. I want to get to the part where they show up, because the way they pop up. Really quickly, I want to mention Crab has been filling everybody's heads with stories of the Whispers. And again, you know, there's this whole thing about like the heads on the shelves, but there's also these magical creatures called squishers that are out in these woods. And so like poor Pod.
Do you think the squishers are real?
Girl, I don't even know. Like, I feel like it would be ridiculous for me to take a hard line and be like, absolutely not, because we got White Walkers and dragons and shit. But also a part of me is like, Crab, no, this is not a suicide. This is a made up shit.
There's that episode of What We Do in the Shadows where all of the vampires are just straight up like, ghosts don't exist, don't be stupid. And their familiar Guillermo has to be like, point of order, why not? You're vampires. And they're all just like, just shut up, dude. It's not the same thing. And he's like, but it actually is.
Isn't it?
You're pictured together on cereal boxes and things quite often, actually. Vampires and ghosts are part of the monster family. Y'all know it.
I like the idea of vampires being like, ghosts. Don't be ridiculous. That's absurd.
It's a really fun episode because it turns out that since they are vampires, they died. And so they did indeed leave ghosts. And they meet their own ghosts of themselves from way back when they died. And some of their ghosts are not particularly impressed with where they have ended up. Anyway, sorry.
I keep meaning to really give that show a go. I go back, I can watch like one episode or two at a time, but then I'll forget for months and months, and then go back and it'll be like starting over all over again.
It's very dumb.
I mean, charm. I feel like I would absolutely just love it. I just got to get it when I'm in like that right place. And the timing just has not worked out yet. So the poor Pod's head is filled with like, you know, stories of ghosts and whispers and everything. And then when they actually get to the place, Crab is like, can you hear it? And Pod is like, yes, I hear them. I do hear them. And there's a moment where Brienne is like, fuck, I hear him too. What the fuck? And then she's like, wait a minute. It's the waves crashing. And because the place is so like falling apart, sound is carrying in a weird way. And that's really what's creating that noise, that effect, is the waves crashing on the stones in the lower levels is making that sort of eerie whispering sound. But I just love that brief moment where Brienne is like, oh my fucking God, I hear that.
Yeah. Yep. I also really like there's a moment where she imagines that she can hear the voice saying, the sword, I should have used the magic sword. Here it is. Right. Go on, milady, urged Nimble Dick. What are you waiting for? What was she waiting for? Brienne told herself she was being foolish. The sound was just the sea. It did sound like whispering, though, and for a moment she could almost see the heads sitting on their shelves and muttering to one another. I should have used the sword, one of them was saying. I should have used the magic sword. And that is what tells, like, it's like almost a trigger for her to be like, actually, maybe I should use the fucking magic sword. And so she has Pod bring her Oathkeeper. And she hands the sword she's been using over to Dick, which is like pretty impressive considering how untrustworthy she has felt he is this whole time, that she suddenly changes her mind. That, I mean, handing a weapon to him, that's like a big deal. But
yeah, I love that.
It turns out to be a good instinct.
Yeah, even Crab is like, wait, you're giving me a sword? There's a moment too where let's see where it happens. I don't know if it happens after. It's like right before the waves, but she's thinking to herself about, oh, that's right, because we were talking about the guy who's following them. What she ends up doing with the person who's following is, because she thinks maybe we should stop and I should just deal with this right fucking now.
Right.
And Crab is the one that's like, no, it's probably nobody. And she ends up telling herself, well, if I need to kill him, I can always do it later, you know? And it makes her have a memory of her, someone named Sir Goodwin, who talks about, you know, her, who trained her, I guess. And he says, you have a man's strength in your arms, but your heart is as soft as any maid, you know, and like you're going to have to get tougher. And to toughen her, she says he used to send her to her father's butcher to slaughter the lambs and the pigs, to make her tough enough, like to toughen up her little girly heart, I guess.
Right, basically, yeah. And
there's something that he says to her where it says, she says, I saw my friend drive his foeman to his knees and knock the axe from his hand, but when he might have finished, he held back for half a heartbeat. In battle, half a heartbeat is a lifetime. And so later on, when she's fighting and she gets like nicked a little bit, and she thinks to herself, I didn't flinch. I didn't even fucking flinch. You know, Sir Goodwin would be proud of me. But yeah. So
I want to say, like, I'm curious about, because, like, you know, you were saying I didn't think the person following them was anybody, and you just found Dick really annoying. Was there ever a point where you thought he was, like, fomenting some secret thing to screw her over?
I didn't, but she thinks that to herself at one point.
Definitely.
This all feels like I forget exactly when the moment is, but at one point she's like, this all feels like a trap. I think it's when they're walking through when things get really, because a lot of their journey was like on a road, and then the further they travel, the less apparent the way becomes. And at one point they get into like this forest, and she even says, I don't know where I am. Like, this all looks exactly the fucking same. They're wholly reliant on Crab navigating them. There's like no trail anymore, you know, no ruts in the road. And I think Pod is like, this place is bad. This is not a good place, you know? So it does start to feel really ominous, but for some reason, maybe lack of imagination, I did not ever really have a moment where I thought that he was setting her up. And I can't really explain why I didn't. I just didn't.
I did.
Because he could have been.
And that was the tension for me with this whole thing, was thinking like, she's being very suspicious of him, and I thought she was right to be. I was just like, well, yeah, this feels clearly like a setup to me. So I was glad that she was being as cautious as she was, and was truly surprised when it turns out that the threat has nothing to do with him at all. Like, I felt, she apologizes after he dies, and it's just like, I just don't know how to trust people anymore. I'm sorry, I didn't trust you. I just don't know how to do that.
Yeah. That was a particularly sad moment too, because I don't feel really bad for her not trusting him.
Agree. Yeah.
But
it's like, I feel bad that she's lost the capacity to trust, but in terms of him, I don't know, he seemed real suspicious. That's fine.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think that it was a trap. I think, you know what? I can't really explain why I didn't think of it that way. I think it was partly because it would have been, to me, when you meet a character and they tell you up front, like, this is what I just did, like, we meet him and he tells us right away that he just conned these other guys. It felt like, as a writer, well, you already told me that he's a con man, so if you're going to have him con her, how is that going to be interesting for me to read? That's not going to be the surprise. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of took it off the table for me. But so they show up. It's the guys.
You said you wanted to read this part?
No. I didn't want to. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that. Sorry.
No.
I misunderstood. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You had the panic in her voice, you guys. Woof.
So, she has had Pod stay behind to, like, keep an eye on the horses, and just her and Crab go, like, up really into the spot, to the little camp spot. Fucking Crab is just yelling, hello?
I cannot with him.
What?
He tries to be like, well, maybe somebody is hiding because they're afraid of us. So we're letting them know there's nothing to worry about. And that was really like, when I was reading this, I was like, okay, it has to be a setup, because nobody is that dumb. They're just like, no, I'm just letting people know we're not a threat. And then it turns out that he is just like that dumb. Bless his heart.
Nope, turns out. Yep. In the end, and honestly, there should not have been any question about his level of intelligence, because, again, this is a man who is willing to lead somebody to the people he just conned. So
true. Yes.
So we get the reveal of who's here, and before as a reader, you can really even, at least for me, before I could even fully grasp the situation, like, get my mind around who these people are, because it happens really fast. She sees someone, he pops out. She says, I knew that nose, I know those eyes. Pig, his friends had called them. And then the next thing you know, she is trying to have Crab back away. And he says, you guys, Crab says, hey, look, it's your fool. To Brienne.
There's a real sense of pride here. Like, he's going, see, I told you.
That's exactly what he's doing. Because in his mind, he's about to get them gold dragons. It's like, it's huzzah. Here it is. And, like, because I have to imagine that secretly Crab was worried that they also would not be there anymore. So
True.
when they get there, and not only do they find remnants of, like, a campsite and that people are here, but then it's the people he said he was taking her to. He's like, oh shit, jackpot.
Yeah.
However, Shagwell has an entirely different reaction to this reunion. And it happens so fast. There's no words. He fucking just takes Crab's knee out in one swing with one of those fucking maces or whatever, like that thing that girl in fucking Kill Bill was swinging around. Fucking takes that knee all the way out.
Yeah.
Drops Crab to the ground, and he is just like, oh my God. And Shagwell just says, that's funny.
I swear, he is so creepy.
He is.
Oh, I hate him.
He is, and there's a description of what he's wearing. And we had seen his outfit when we met him, ages ago, but it's in bad shape now because he's been like out on these streets, and these streets are muddy, and so it's a bad scene. But he is still wearing his motley. It's all faded and stained. It says it showed more brown than gray or pink. He doesn't have his jester's flail. He has that Morning Star, and then the 3 spike balls thing that he swings. Takes Crab down, and then says, "Oh, look, it's Smuggler Dick, the one who made the map for us. Did you come all this way to give us back our gold?" And then he just smashes his fucking face in. I think Crab is begging for his life. I think Brienne is like screaming, "Please don't," or something. It doesn't matter. He smashes his whole face in without giving it a second thought. There's no there's no fucking, banter. There's no lecture. There's no see what happens when you mess around with us. There's none of that.
Mm-hmm.
He just takes the knee out, smashes the skull in, done and done. I said, well, all right.
In case you weren't sure what tone we were going to take for this fight, it is chaotic. That is the flavor of it.
And then the other 2 guys come out, and then we don't have to go like piece by piece because we still got another chapter to get to. But the way that these 3 men, because we haven't seen them in a little bit, I had forgotten just how unsettling it is to listen to how they talk to each other, how they talk about Brienne. It is just really, really gross, and I didn't like any of it. Just like the guy comes and he's like, "Oh, bad Shags," while he's laughing, and then he sees Brienne, he's like, "Oh, it's you again." And there's 3 pages of how much this Shags wants to fuck Brienne and all the various holes in her body. It just goes on and on. And then finally she kills him, and I was like, thank fucking God.
It's so good. I love when she kills him and tells him to laugh repeatedly as she said, I love her.
She seemed surprised she was surprised at how far she went. Mm-hmm. She was in such a rage that when she had to catch herself after a few minutes and just oh shit.
It's because she has him alive, she kills the others, but she keeps him alive to bury Dick. Mm-hmm. And so eventually she's setting Dick down into the grave and has her back to Shag, and it's just now's the time he's gonna do it. And sure enough, he has a rock. Yeah, and she has a dagger, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in her sleeve or something. They also, before everyone is dead, we get a little bit of what has happened, and we find out one of them, I think this is Timian, tells her basically, everybody split up after Harrenhal. Some guys went this way, some other guys went to the salt pans. They also tell Brienne that, because she says she ends up saying that she's looking for, she almost says, "I'm looking for my sister," and then she says, "for a fool," and then she just comes right out and tells them, "I'm looking for a daughter of Lord Stark," and that makes them tell her, "Oh, well, then you're looking for the Hound." Because he has her, and they're on their way to Riverrun. Now, as readers, we all know that's the wrong Stark girl.
Yes,
right. So their information is actually right. It's just the wrong girl. But
it's kind of ironic that she meets these absolute pieces of shit, and they're the only people to give her anything useful.
Yep.
It's not her actual objective, but
exactly. And it's so funny because this starts. She literally says out loud, "I'm not here for you. I'm looking for basically someone else completely different." And it is when she is telling someone, "You're not the person I'm interested in. I don't give a fuck about anything that you got going on." They're the actual people who have information that's relevant, or at least the closest to being relevant compared to anything else she's gotten from anyone else.
And I guess because she has a moment that when there's a night where she can't build a fire. It's just too wet, and they basically just have to sleep out in the wet, which sounds so fucking miserable. I'm soft. I can't. Nah. Mm-mm. But she is thinking about how many people she has failed. And it says something like the wind shifted and the rain was running down her face. And I was like, is it? Is it the rain? But if she even found Arya, it would be partially like her goal most lately is to Jaime to find Sansa. But if she finds Arya, that's not terrible, you know?
No,
like,
I mean, it's given at least one of the, you know, oaths to Catelyn, at least, you know, maybe not benefiting Jaime in any way, but fulfilling something she promised Catelyn that she would do.
Yeah.
When she's going down her list of people of the time she's failed, it was really kind of like, oh damn girl, you really are like don't have a great track record, do you? It's really not good. Which is because it's funny because I generally don't think of her as being like someone that's not good at what they do. I tend to think of her very fondly as a character, and I feel like, you know, she's very capable and everything. But when it's all on the page that way, no, it is not a glowing resume.
No.
Not at all.
Agree.
So she ends up like killing each of these guys, and they desperately deserve it. She makes Shagwell build the grave for Crab, puts him in it, apologizes for being so distrustful, and they're done here. And then you think that it's all about to be over, and we find out that there is someone following her, and they pop out, and it is that Hyle Hunt guy.
Yeah.
And we find out that he is here because Lord Randall ordered him to follow her to keep, just in case, as he says, by some freak's chance, she actually finds Sansa. They are planning to snatch her up and bring her back to Maidenpool.
Really underhanded.
Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah.
Like the idea that like, oh, we're going to like mock you and basically be like, if you get raped, it's your fault. But also we will definitely swoop in and take the credit for a thing that you have done, and no qualms about that at all. Ugh.
And then she makes a choice here that I don't fully understand after this reveal, after being told that this man, Lord Randall, had someone follow you clandestinely, not offer you any assistance, but just follow you. Like, you could have just sent him on this quest with her. But no, you didn't do that. She then tells him everything she just learned. I think she's at Riverrun. That's where I'm going next. I heard that the Hound has her. If I find him, I'll kill him. Why would she tell him any of this?
I mean, maybe she just figures that he's probably going to keep following her, so she may as well, because like she can't exactly stop him without killing him.
Yeah,
so
I guess. She asked, will you help me cover up poor Crab? And I thought immediately she was going to say, like, will you also join me on this quest? But that didn't happen. But maybe that's what's coming next. You know, maybe I'm supposed to just infer by, like, when she says, will you help me cover up poor Crab? That is a sort of, like, general invitation to come help me, period.
That's interesting. Okay. I like that idea.
I don't know. But otherwise, I was just like, girl, why are you telling all your business? Like, if he wants to keep following you, as you know, you can't control that. To your point, you know, she'd have to kill him. She can't order him to go home. But also, though, now that we know he's there, we know what his orders are, it would be very silly for him to just keep following her. They have to travel together at this point, right?
I guess so, yeah.
It would just be like a show if he, like, I'm just going to stay 2 beats behind you. You know, but you're going to pretend like you don't know I'm right behind you.
Yeah, I wonder why he bothered showing himself here, because, like, it wasn't, like, the game wasn't up. They hadn't seen him, right? I mean, he lets himself be seen, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah, it's a weird, because, like, the whole energy with him, I don't know what, like, you know, he's obviously not a good dude. And I also feel weird about how he shows himself here And she was out here being attacked, and I can't tell if he was here for that. I have to assume not, because a part of me immediately was like, oh, you were just hiding watching her get attacked by 3 dudes and didn't do shit. But I think because she has to tell him what's going on, it's understood that he just got here and didn't see the whole fight, you know, because he wasn't like right behind them. He was behind them enough that they couldn't tell who he was.
True.
So anyway,
he doesn't show up until after she has killed Shagwell, and I think she's like throwing the gold coins into the grave.
Right.
And Pod is just like, you know, what'd you do that for? And that's when this guy reveals himself, because he actually is laughing. That's the other thing too. I just want to mention, there's a lot of people laughing at Brienne at every turn, right? You know, whether they think it's in good spirits or not. There's just people laughing at her all the time. And she has just gotten done gutting fucking Shagwell, ordering him to laugh. And then the first thing she hears is, you know, this dude Hyle laughing at her because she has thrown the coins in the grave. He basically is just like, that's a waste of money. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point, though. It didn't occur to me. He even like here when she's like, "Can you help me bury him?" He's like, "What man could refuse such beauty?" And I'm like, "Really? Still now you're doing this? Jesus, dude, fucking stop for a second."
Yeah, they can't help themselves. And then we go to the Queenmaker. This went away.
Yeah, what do you think of this?
I was shocked. I thought that this plot line was going to go for much longer. I don't know if I thought I didn't even have any hard feelings about how the plot was going to turn out yet. It was still so new. So this shit just got nipped right in the bud.
It sure did. Yep.
So,
flash in the pan idea.
It really, like, you know, like grand opening, grand closing. Yeah, so we're catching back up with Arianne Martell, and, you know, she's got this plan to install Cersei's daughter on the throne, and they have whisked her away to, I don't know, some other part of Dorne. I'm not really sure exactly where they are, but it has taken all kinds of intrigue. We have stand-ins. We got a fake Myrcella pretending to have what I am assuming is a version of the chicken pox or measles. They call it the red pox. We got a guy pretending to be Eris, even though he's a couple inches too short. You know what I mean? They got a whole thing going on. She's got a little crew of like her best and brightest and closest friends, you know. This shit is all looking like it's about to really go, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
like not at all.
It doesn't go so spectacularly.
Yeah,
that it's like embarrassing a little bit.
But so it opens. She is traveling again with her friends. She's got a woman that she's very close to named Spotted Silva. There are a couple of dudes with her, some guy named Dre. There's this guy with her that they call the Dark Star, and that's, I feel like, really is the main character, right?
I'm sure he would agree with you. I don't know if I agree with you.
So there's Dre, there's some guy named Garen, there's Spotted Silva, and there's this Dark Star guy whose real name is Gerald, I think. Sir Gerald.
Yep. Gerald Dane.
Oh yeah, he's a Dane. Right. So I love that too. There's a line, like a line later where I guess it's when he's meeting Myrcella, and of course she recognizes the Dane name, and then later he's just like, everybody's always talking about my cousin.
He wasn't the only Dane. God.
And then he said he has something. She says when Marcella's like, yeah, the morning star. And then I think she asked him, are you a morning star? And he's like, no, I'm dark. I am of the night or some bullshit like that. I implore you, sir, calm down.
It's not a phase, Mom.
Oh, it's fucking emo Dane.
Oh man, that's good. There's a moment, and I wanted your opinion here because I have been very like back and forth on what I think is being said. She's talking about like the last time she came here with her uncle and how she was younger and he was teaching them how to milk snakes for their venom and talking about what everybody was doing. And somebody's like, oh, and what were you up to? I sat beside the well and pretended that some robber knight had brought me here to have his way with me, she thought. A tall, hard man with black eyes and a widow's peak. The memory made her uneasy. What?
Who is that?
Do you think she's talking about Oberyn? Was she like crushing on her uncle? Is that what she meant?
I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. I was going to ask you who it was because I thought you were going to tell me that there was a specific person. I wasn't prepared for you to have questions about this. I thought you were going to have answers.
No, ma'am. If you came here for answers, you are in the wrong place. But,
I mean,
yeah.
It could be because she says the memory made her uneasy, right? And then when she doesn't tell, when the person, because somebody has asked her, what did she do when she was here before? And she just tells them, I dreamed. And then I sat cross-legged at my uncle's feet and begged him for a story. So that's a weird sort of two things to put together in the same moment, right? Mm-hmm. If it is her uncle she's thinking about it, she's fantasizing about being taken, to have that memory of crushing on your uncle in that way, and then have it right immediately behind that, had it said, I sat cross-legged at his feet and listened to his stories. That is really uncomfortable to have those two so close together like that, if in fact she's talking about her uncle. Personally, I want it to be something other than that. Anything.
I feel like that's what it is.
Also, I
can't. What it is.
I can't remember how the book describes Oberyn either. Like, I can't remember if
he definitely has a widow's peak.
Does he? Okay, well then there you go. See, I couldn't remember that, and of course, in my head, all I see is Pedro. Right. So I couldn't remember how the book described him whatsoever. But yeah, if the book says he has a widow's peak, then I mean, well, I was going to say, children, can get very innocent crushes. I don't know how old she is when this is supposed to have happened.
Yeah, the fact that she says, I fantasize that he brought me here to have his way with me, doesn't feel innocent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, innocent, like, okay. Innocent might not be the best word. I guess, I mean... Well, I don't really know how to explain it. No, I meant sort of like you can, you develop crushes on people that aren't appropriate for whatever reason. Whether it be teacher, older relative, or whatever. Because that's just something that, like, children will do sometimes when you're just immature and then your imagination just goes off with you. And then when you come out of it, you'll be embarrassed or feel guilty about whatever it is you were fantasizing about, which would track with how uneasy this memory makes her feel.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when I say innocent, I just kind of mean like childish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense. And honestly, it seems like Oberyn was really hot shit. So
I mean,
she's clearly a sucker for a pretty face. So I feel like this just tracks with her personality. It's just like, ooh, look at him.
And then, like, as she matures, she, like, is not so much lusting after her uncle anymore, but has, turned into somebody as lusty as her uncle, and is out here, like, with men wanting to be, making sure she's getting it in where she can fit it in. But yeah, so I'm reading this chapter, and I have to say, I'm liking these people that I'm meeting. I like all these guys. The Dark Star is just funny, but really interesting, and also, like, from the best I can tell, is like a serious person. Like, he's not somebody you want to really be fucking around with,
Right.
So I am feeling almost confident, you guys. I'm reading this like, okay, this might be something.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a nice little crew with her. They all seem to be very, these are all people she, like, goes way back with. We get a lovely little bit about her brother, because remember, a lot of this is starting because she has recently learned that her father intends to pass on the throne to her brother, who has been being raised somewhere else for, like, however long it's been, right? And this is what's prompted her. This is a catalyst for this plan that she has. And so we get a little bit of talk about her brother, and we find out that her brother is, like, pretending to not be who he is as he's traveling. And she tells us the story. I don't know exactly who it is, but someone breaks into his shit and finds, like, some parchments, and so they have an idea of, like, what exactly his plan is. Right.
They don't open them all the way because they're afraid
because
they're going to be seen.
But they have, like, the seal on it, which I guess is her father's seal. I think that's who she says it is. And we find out that someone brings news that the Golden Company, is it, that has broke their contract with Mir. They get news that there's, like, dragons in Karth, and that there's a slave revolt in Astapor. So I always love, and I've said this before, when bits and pieces of what's going on in other parts of this world, like, trickle down. I love when it happens. And I love to see the reactions to the characters. We don't get a lot of reaction here, and that kind of bummed me out. We don't really get anybody being like, dragons? Who said they sold dragons? Which is what I keep waiting. I keep waiting for that to be the thing.
Nobody seems to credit it at all. Everybody's just like, yeah, sailors are going to say dumb shit like that. Like, it's not taken seriously by anybody.
One of these days, one person is going to give me the satisfaction of being like, dragons, say what? And then I'll be fulfilled.
What if a character said, say what in this universe?
Saith what, my good man? I'm sorry.
Doesn't hit the same.
That was beneath all of us. I apologize. But yeah, so they get, like, little bits and pieces of news, and I always like when that happens. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really, like, that really jumps out before things escalate.
It's the Dark Star, I think, that's basically being like, are you sure this is how you want to do this? Because, like, first of all, you should know Tywin is dead. So the whole way that this is supposed to go is going to look a little different because Cersei is taking over.
I loved her reaction.
Arianne is like, no, that might be good.
Yeah, she says she thinks that, well, maybe if the Seven Kingdoms get accustomed to being ruled by a woman as Cersei is Queen Regent, that will make the transition to having Marcella on the throne easier. And even though that we don't get a chance to see if it's true or not because this shit goes south super fast. But I love her mind going there and being like, you know what, that's actually not terrible.
Yeah. And then he's like, because you're just talking about, like, oh, we'll put her on the throne and that'll start some shit. If you really want to start some shit, I have a suggestion, and that is kill her. Just kill her, and then we will have started the shit adequately. But she is not interested.
No. And she's actually like, she's under my protection. Get that like right out of your head. I also like, we get a little bit of information about when her brother was sent away, how angry her mother was. Because her mother was from somewhere else, and the prince is like, we owe a debt. We owe a debt, and our son is the only coin this lord will accept. And she is fucking like, coin? The fuck are you talking about? That's your son. What kind of father uses his own flesh and blood to pay his debts? And Doran says, the princely sort. But I love that I forget where the mother is from, but it's made like very clear that she thinks this whole idea of sending your sons away to like secure treaties and all that other kind of bullshit. And I have been waiting for somebody to say it. I feel like I have been waiting a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Quentin had been very young when he was sent to Ironwood. Too young, according to their mother. Norvoshi did not foster out their children, and Lady Malario had never forgiven him. So, this is just something that she truly does not understand, the tradition of this. Yeah, and he says it's kind of a like weird thing.
It definitely is a weird thing, and we've seen it. It's been presented throughout the books as being so common to even like it doesn't even beg like introspection. It's so common and so normal that nobody thinks twice about it anymore. And we have seen how many of our characters that we know went through this process. We know that Ned was fostered with John Arryn, right? He went to John Arryn, and it wasn't. I don't think Ned's deal was a debt being paid, right? I can't remember why Ned got sent away, but I don't think it was like any kind of like debt or reward. I think it was.
I think it was meant to learn like be an alliance. Yeah, I think like it can go both ways. You can either be sent because you are, taking somebody hostage, or there's a debt or some sort of like negative connotation, or it could be we're such close friends that I want my son to learn from you. And this will be strengthening to our alliance, and potentially like our kids can wed eventually,
Right. So like, because we have Theon being raised by the Starks, but that was basically to keep his father in check. Like, Balin, you tried to start a war, so we can't trust you, so we're going to hold on to your kid if you fuck up, So, but it's such a strange custom. And I guess that like is based on reality. I'm sure if people like that kind of stuff, it's something that was a thing that people did. But to my mind, it is a very, very strange thing, and it was refreshing to have another character be like, "What are y'all doing? Well, you can't just take my son and send him somewhere. What the fuck are you talking about?" But then also kind of really sad that it didn't matter what she thought, because she's just the mom, she's just the wife, she don't get a say, and that shit happened anyway, and that she was left like brokenhearted and never forgave her husband for doing that, because it feels like in all the people we know that this has happened to, you think about Theon and Ned and Rob and Rob Baratheon, and it's they're all adults telling us about this thing that happened when they were children, so there's not a lot of focus on what was it like for the adult, for the parent,
right,
to lose their kid. And so I just like the reframing of it in this way.
And I also think like, about the way things went for Theon, and how Theon was a shit, but there was also a sense of like, he had to prove something, because he was like, he already had a bad attitude and a complete like deluded sense of himself. So I'm not trying to say this was purely based on what being a ward does to you. But when he gets home, they basically act like he betrayed them and went off to live with the Starks voluntarily. And it's just such an ugly finding out that like, it's a custom that we all understand and appreciate, but it doesn't get accepted despite us all knowing that this is how it works. And how unfair that is.
there's also a little bit of shame too with Theon's deal.
Definitely.
because it is the price that his father has to pay for his father's failure, or that Theon pays the price for his father's failure. So there is definitely, we lost, and then you got to be taken as, like a trophy to be raised in a way that devalues our own customs as like just yet another way to spit in our face, Yep. Yeah, it's not to get too off track or anything, but like, so when you're a kid and you have to like go live with people who aren't your immediate family, even if they're like, you're still your family, but it's not like your mom and dad and your sisters and brothers.
Right.
It's a very weird situation. And so I had to go and live with my grandmom for a little while when I was a kid. And I was there for altogether about 2 years, but it was a cycle of like the end of 6th grade to like the middle of 8th grade.
Okay.
And then I was able to like come home and like be able to live with my mom again. And then years and years and years later, as an adult, I was with family. There was a death in the family. My grandmom had passed. And, it was a very emotional time. People are not like at their best, when there's a death in the family. And me and a cousin got into an argument. And it was a cousin who also lived down there. She grew up her whole life down there with my grandma. Her mom actually lived there, and they, that's where they lived. And I went to live with them for a little while, and then I left. So fast forward, we are adults. My grandma has died, and my cousin and I get into this really heated argument. Like we almost came to blows. But one of the things she yelled at me in her grief was that I left them.
When you were a child.
I was 13. But she's younger than me. So we have a 5-year age difference. So she was 8. I was 13. She was 8. But in her memory, that's how she sees it. I was there and then I left them. Like in her imagination, I like abandoned them, even though I was a child.
Yeah.
And she did. Like she really did. Like she threw that in I left them. Yeah. So it's just like, so when I think about like Theon returning home, or what, like, and the sort of resentment that people like, oh, you left us. No, I was taken from you, but anyway.
Did your cousin get it, or did it kind of stick to their guns? Like, did they have a moment where they step back and be like, oh, but you were 13?
In that moment, they had to physically separate us. People had to come and like restrain me and restrain her.
Shit.
We were going to fight. We were going to fight.
I should not laugh because it's not funny. It's terrible, but like
it was awful. Yeah. They had to come and grab me and grab her. Yeah. I mean, grief does things to you. But so that really stuck in my mind because she was also a child, She was just a baby, but
and I'm sure to her 13 looks like an adult. Like she probably is like sticking to the weird perception that you have when you're that young, and everybody above the age of 12 is a grown up.
So the people on the outside of those types of scenarios, they with how they see it can be so skewed from the reality of a situation. And then for Theon, and it, years have passed. I don't know how we're still talking about Theon, but really, really quickly, by the time he returns home as he's like 15, I guess at the time, because he's like a little bit younger than Rob. Mm-hmm. So, like, say he's like 14 or 15. So
I think he was older than Rob.
Was he?
I believe Theon was like a little older than Rob. I'll look it up, but continue. Okay. Sorry, it doesn't matter.
But my point is, it's been like 10 plus years, right? So in the time that he's gone, the people build up like a fan fiction in their own head, you know, of who he is and what happened. And then he shows back up and has to reckon with this thing that they've built in their head about who and what he is. And then it doesn't help that it turns out that he really is just an obnoxious, like, little piece of shit most of the time. Mm-hmm. So that definitely doesn't help.
That is true.
But I got us really sidetracked, but really it was just because I wanted to mention how I loved it. Finally, somebody out loud was just like, "You're not just taking my baby," and sending him around. So we have, let's see what else. So we meet the rest of the people in her group. My goodness. I want to talk about Darkstar a little bit, but I can't find the thing that I wanted to say about him. But he has a couple of really choice moments where I just feel like I wouldn't mind reading a little bit more about him. I don't know if I like him or not, but I think he's very interesting.
Well, maybe I'll get some more.
There's also some beef, like even before Eris shows up, it's very clear that he's not a fan. And there's like somebody has a line about killing Oakhearts for thousands of years or something like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. There's a little bit of a history going on there. I'm looking at the notes from Austin. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's a mention about like the Danes and their silver hair, and apparently George R. R. Martin has specifically come out and said like they are not Valyrian. I get that everybody thinks, oh, maybe they're, you know, if you go back far enough, they're Valyrian. No, they're not. So I don't know why that's particularly important, but he has made a point of it. And
there's a whole thing where she talks about his what he looks like. So I guess maybe Austin thought that I might make a leap there, but no, I did not.
And there's also, he points out about Garen, he calls himself an orphan of the green blood.
I love that.
And it turns out that this is like a people that sort of stuck with the traditions even after they were invaded and colonized. And there's a real like sort of Romani thing going on with them because they don't really like stay in one place. They travel a lot up and down the rivers.
Up and down the river. And I loved it. There's a bit too where there's a description, I think, and it's saying something like people, basically it's like people try to clown the orphans and say that they live on like little shanty shacks on these rafts, but no, they're actually beautifully intricately carved homes that they've built, like little houseboats, right? And it's like when he's trying to explain their deal, because they're called the orphans, and at one point one of the kids, I guess it's Marcella, is confused because he starts referring to like a mother, and she's like, how could you have a mother if you're an orphan? And he breaks down their sort of religion. That was really, really interesting.
I thought this was something that I don't feel like I fully paid attention to in my first read, but I do find it really interesting, especially like now that I kind of understand more about the mechanisms of colonizing, and I can appreciate more what it means to cling to your original beliefs, despite the fact that they are being like, if not actively discouraged, they're being lost somehow, you know? I really have a lot more appreciation for like how fascinating that could be. Yeah,
I wish I could fucking find a bit when he's talking about
we'll get there.
Explain it. They're like Roiner, and I don't think I'm saying any of this right, but
I think Roiner's right. That's the way he says it in the audiobook.
So eventually though, back on track with this chapter. Eris finally does show up, and he has Marcella with him, and we find out again that they have like somebody pretending to still be her and be sick, and a guard is pretending to be Eris. And they have this whole thing where she's very contagious, and that's going to keep everybody out of the room.
Yeah.
They picked a disease that they knew is very contagious. Also, it's worse in adults if you've never had it as a child, which made me think of chickenpox. And
yeah, it's definitely
maester,
chickenpox,
right? And the maester here has never had it, so he's staying way away from the room. Normally, that would be like the one person that would be all up in the face, and that they have taken this little blonde girl who Tyrion actually had picked, and it's a cousin. It's a Lannister cousin. I love Marcella. It's like she's a Lannister from Lannisport, not Casterly Rock.
The distinction of this it's just such a thing that would definitely happen, of just like, oh, she's not one of us, trust me.
I loved it. She's like close, but like, don't get it twisted, she's not the real deal. And they have to curl her hair, but she does have the same blonde hair, but it doesn't have curls. And they put her in her clothes, and then they have all this gunk on her face to treat the supposed chickenpox that she has. And that's gonna like keep everybody from knowing that she's left. And they finally show up, and she's greeted, and everybody is like calling her your grace and kneeling, and she is like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And she's so sweet. The first thing she says, like, my grace, did something happen to Tommen? Like, she's worried that something has happened to her brother, and it's very cute. And they say to her, well, it's not his fault, but he has fallen in with evil men, and they are going to steal your throne. And she's like, my throne? He didn't steal that. It's his. And I think it's Arianne who's speaking, and she's like, but he's younger than you, right? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm older. And so she's like, well, that means the throne is yours because you're older. And your brother is a good boy, but he's a little boy. And he's got some people whispering in his ears that aren't giving him good advice. But you have friends. Let me introduce them to you. And she just leads her around and like introduces her to her new court. And it's all very cute. And they're all, I got swept up, you guys.
I know. It's almost disappointing. You're just like, I didn't realize that I had kind of gotten invested a little bit in the success of this.
Yep. I didn't, like, because I just learned about this plan like 2 podcasts ago, right? But I did, it was one chapter. It was one chapter, but I'm reading all this, and I'm just slowly nodding my head, like, yeah, okay, all right, I kind of like this. And I don't know these people really well yet, but I kind of like these people too. I love the way they all are just very sweet about how they approach her and how they introduce themselves. I'm a sucker is really what it turns out to be. That is, I'm hearing myself speak. I'm a fucking total mark. They come up. The Silva introduces herself and asks, she asks, why do they call you Spotted? And she says, well, it's for my freckles, even though they all pretend it's because I'm from Spotswood. And a gentleman shows up. His name is it's Dre. He introduces himself and says, all my friends call me Dre. I hope you'll do the same. And she says, until I know you, I must call you sir. And this just goes on. Garen comes and is introduced to her. And he says, no, Arianne says his mother was my wet nurse. And Marcella says, I'm sorry she's dead, because she's so sweet. She just assumes the past tense means that this woman has died. And she's just like all ready to give her condolences.
I like Marcella. She's got a good energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, we haven't gotten a lot of her. I don't know how much more after the way this fucking plot just turned. I don't know if I'm going to get much more of her, but this made me wish I had gotten to spend more time with her, quite frankly.
It just feels like somehow she managed to sidestep the vibe of her mom, and it might be that it would grow on her. I'm sure Cersei wasn't quite so bitter when she was a kid either, but there's a meanness that can sometimes be inherited from parents. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like it's here in her.
It doesn't. And like again, because Marcella's also been sent away, right? We had this whole conversation about like sending your children away and all that stuff, but she's also been sent away and used as a pawn in the same sort of fashion, right? And yet it seems as though she has taken it without any bitterness or resentment. You know, she got along really well with everyone that she seems to have encountered while she's been in Dorne. She's fostered this really close relationship with Doran's son. She seems really well liked. You know, just a really
That's
sweet...
the thing for me, is like that she seems well liked, and I wonder if Arianne would still have gone through with this plan if she weren't as well liked as she is.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And if she did, I think she would be more concerned for the success of the plan. I think this plan comes together so quickly and easily for Arianne is because of who Marcella is and just how likable she is, how sweet she is, and knowing, and it seems like she's the type of little girl that when you meet her, your instinct is to be like, oh, cinnamon roll, what can I do to help you? How can I protect you? You know what I mean? Like she just sort of seems to inspire that in people, like just the desire to aid and protect and help however you can. And if she was a less likable child, unpleasant, obnoxious, like a Joffrey, you know, bratty, any of those things, her claim to the throne that Arianne is professing that she has would still be valid, but I don't think people would rally to her cause as quickly, you know?
Yeah, agree.
So, yeah, then we have the thing when she meets the Dark Star and she asked about the Arthur Dayne thing, and he literally says, I am of the night, y'all. I cannot. No, men call me Dark Star and I am of the night. I cannot. It's just oh my goodness. I really enjoyed it, every second of it. And
I don't feel like we've really talked about it, but Arianne is super, super hot for him.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Real, real bad.
Yeah. Like, she has to, like, remind herself that, you know, I just gotta wait for Aerys to get here. There's a whole thing where she's like, oh my God, what if I did? And then Aerys found out, and then they'd have to fight for me.
Oh my God. Even at one point, Darkstar just gives her a look, and she's like, whoa, he better not give me no looks like that when Aerys is around, because the shit is going to get bloody. And I was like, that must have been a hell of a look. And I don't doubt her at all, because a woman knows when they're getting that sort of look.
Yeah,
but,
if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
A lot of times I did not know I was getting that look until many years later. And then somebody was like, you know, I was giving you that look. And I was like, word? You giving me the look? Me? Are you sure? It wasn't somebody behind me.
Yeah, I figured it was directed towards the person behind me. We were alone in the room. Well, you know, could have been. It's a poster.
Somebody could have been peeping through the window. I don't know. My back was turned. But so we have this, you know, this is just all going really well. Like you said earlier, as she finds out that Lannister, the Tywin, is dead, because Aerys has got some news from King's Landing since she's seen him last. And she is just like, also, the fact that the Lannisters are killing Lannisters also seems to her like this is just proof that this is the best time to make this move, right?
Yeah.
This house is in disarray. They're falling apart. Their strongest leader was murdered. Son is on the loose, like on the run. Cersei is fixated on trying to bring, you know, Tyrion back for revenge. This is like perfect timing for what I'm trying to pull.
Yeah.
And this is also when we find out like everything they had to do to like get Marcella out of Dorne and all the, you know,
subterfuge. Yeah. Doing an Ocean's 11 over here.
Really, like a whole thing. And oh yeah. And so then we get to them having time to like relax. They've traveled a little bit and, you know, are making camp, and they're sitting around talking, and this is when Garen starts to tell more about his people of the Green Blood. And Arianne is trying to explain. She says, they are the Roynar. and their mother was the River Rhine. And Marcella's like, I thought you were Dornishmen though. And I said, "Oh, let me read up this close because they're about to tell me a bunch of shit that I'm never going to remember." And that is what happened.
You're better than me to even notice that that's what's about to happen. So good for you.
But yeah, so he tells us that they're trying to explain that Nymeria came. The Dornish Lord she married, and then Nymeria fired her ship so that people would understand that there'd be no going back. And then a small group of people just decided that that was it. They didn't like this place. They didn't like this new god, and they were going to hang on to their shit. And they took and made boats out of what was left of the fleet that she had destroyed to keep everybody from sort of leaving, right? They went through all that debris and built their own homes from that trash that was left behind, from that destruction, and decided that that was going to be their life for them. Like, they weren't going to go jump on this new shit. And they have their own, like, religious system. And somebody is like, I heard the Rhoynar have a turtle god. And like, that's really like kind of disrespectful, but it turns out that it's true.
What's disrespectful about it? What's more disrespectful than being like, well, you know, there's a crone and she has a lantern and, you know.
Just the way he said it. I heard the Rhoynar had some turtle god. Not even a turtle god or the turtle god, just some turtle god.
They just made him up. Some god met him at a gas station.
And there's the old man of the river is a lesser god. That's what a turtle god is. And that he's born from Mother River and fought the Crab King to win dominion over all who dwell beneath the flowing waters. And I could make an Ocean Gate joke, but I'm not gonna.
The flowing waters, not the sea waters, the flowing waters. Different dominion. But I nevertheless think the Rhoynar would approve of what happened there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guaranteed.
And so things seem like they're going really well. Aerys, first thing he tries to do is get some the minute they are alone, right?
Oh my god, so quick. She is talking about him, or she's thinking about him later on in her head, and she thinks that he and Wit were strangers.
Oh my god, I can't wait to bust that out on a fucking Facebook thread somewhere.
Oh, that was just so cutting and it's correct. Like, the way things go down with him, it just didn't have to go like that, dude. You didn't have to. Like, what did you do that for?
I don't know what he was thinking. It was so fucking unnecessary. It is just So she is Arianne throughout this chapter 2 is there's a lot like going on in her head. She is also, as they're traveling, looking at Aerys often and just being like, dude, it is 105 degrees in the middle of the desert. What are you doing? He's still got all his mail on. He's still wearing his fucking white Kingsguard cloak, like, flapping,
which
in
is
the
a
wind.
real
Like,
giveaway, not a smart move.
what is right? Like, and like refuse. Everybody else is wearing veils or covering their heads because they're not like numbskulls. They know what you need to do. And they talk about how dangerous it is to be traveling in this heat. In the sun, like they try to ride only at night because daytime is just like it's too much, and he's just like, nope, I'm gonna wear all this. Do you remember on the show there was some time where Dany and fucking what's his name? What's the knight's name? Dany's knight, Jorah, and they're like crossing the fucking desert, and he's wearing all his shit, and it's clearly 200 degrees, and he's like. Like you're just in the image of it, and you're just like, dude, what are you doing?
Why are you doing this to yourself? Yeah,
that's what I thought of when I was reading this. I was like, oh, he's like fucking Jorah. Like, what do you like? He's Arianne's Jorah.
I mean, Jorah and Wit are also strangers, so I guess that all tracks, to be honest. TBH.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I do like the like mention at one point, she has the veil over her face to keep the sand out of her mouth and her eyes and stuff. And then at one point they stop and they water the horses and they wet their veils. And I was like, oh, that is so smart. And then you've got like the wind coming through the cold wet, and that'll sort of cool you down and also weigh it in such a way that it doesn't flap around for a little bit. Like, I was just thinking, that's a really smart idea. It gets hot here. I might wet a veil.
Might
someday.
try it.
Yeah, I might do that.
Have you ever like done the thing where you like wet a paper, like wet like a washcloth, and then just put it like on top of your head?
You mean when you go outside with your hair still wet after washing it in the summer and nothing feels hot because you just have this air conditioned back of your neck?
No,
that's basically the same thing.
that also would work.
Yeah, I had that the other day. I had just washed my hair, but I immediately put it up into like a bun. And then I went out and about all day, and it was just like all the water drips to right at the like base of your head and sort of sits in your hair. And it was just so refreshing. Normally I hate that. It drives me nuts. So I don't like to put my hair up when it's wet. But with the heat and everything, I was like, I've got like one of those little back of the neck air conditioner things going on. I love this. So tip from me to everybody.
Life
it
hack.
helps. Yeah.
I like too that throughout this chapter, Arianne has like these memories of when she has been here before as a kid. So we had the one earlier where she was like remembering being with Oberyn and him telling stories, and also having like, you know, fantasies. And then she is remembering that she made this trip with some of the sand snakes to go visit one of their mothers. So those little bits were also really cool to read about. And things are just going, you know, very
Which is the sand snake that she's like particularly friends with? It's Tyene.
It's Tyene. She names two. Tyene is the one whose mother they go to see. It says she had gone with 3 of the sand snakes to visit Tyene's mother. And then earlier in her chapter, she mentions Tyene and another one specifically, but I cannot remember who it was.
Okay. Yeah. I was just trying to remember.
And she's got like she's seeing her plan is going to work. I'm going to crown Myrcella at Hellholt and raise my banners there. Like, she's like, my shit's coming together, y'all. And they get to the river and they get really excited. Like, 1 or 2 of the guys actually goes like racing off to the river, probably Garen and somebody else, you know. And they see the ship, and she's looking at it and she doesn't see any people. She's like, huh, where is it?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
And Garen is just like so happy to be there. He sees there's nobody there, but he doesn't seem to have any suspicion. It doesn't make him hesitate.
No.
He's kind of like fucking Crab. He's yelling, hello. You know, he's
a little bit, yeah.
Right? He's banging on the windows. He's telling everybody, wake up, you fish-eyed lagabeds. Lagabeds, I love that word. You know, because he's just not thinking it's anything terrible. And he's like,
he's got such perfect trust that their plan is still secret.
Yep. His actual thing is, wake up, you fish-eyed lagabeds. Your queen is here and wants her royal welcome. Come up and come out. We'll have some songs and sweet wine. My mouth is set for it. Like, he's already heralding the day, you know? This is going to be a great day. This is where it all starts. And the door opens. Y'all.
Yeah.
It's fucking Ariel Hota there with his goddamn axe. And my heart sank.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of a weird thing too, because like, if y'all knew, why did you wait to meet them here? That was a long travel that they just did. maybe they found out after, but how did they get there before them then?
I don't know. I don't know about, like, I think it's mentioned where they're going at the very beginning of this chapter, but I didn't pay attention, so I forget where they're going. So I haven't looked exactly on a map. So I don't know about they travel several days. But I don't know if there was other ways. Like, maybe they just took the river all the way from, like, fucking the city, like, straight down. Like,
right.
I don't know. But like,
it might be that they had to go, like, a way that was less populated, and
right.
if they're going to catch up, they could just go the straightforward way, and it's faster.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Like, they had to go a roundabout way.
Yeah.
And so Hoda shows up, and the first thing that Arianne thinks is, it was not supposed to end like this. This was not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she just tells everybody to, like, get away. You know, just get away. She tells Aerys to protect the princess, and
he doesn't. I just really want to, like, point that out. She's hurt after this is over. And he just rides toward them to do what? Like, literally to do what, though? I want to know. Your job is to protect the princess, and she's over here with her hand over her face and covered in blood, while you just make this pointless sally. What are you doing, sir? You know? Like, get a hold of yourself. Fuck.
This, you know what this is? This is a suicide mission, because Oakhart has broken his vows, right? He conspired with Arianne to basically kidnap his charge, and break this pact that his queen or his king or whoever is in charge in King's Landing has set in motion. And he's a Kingsguard. There's nothing waiting for him but death. Not to mention that
I guess that makes sense.
He's already, we'll remember from his chapter, already decided that he has fucking soiled his cape, right? Because he's fucking this girl. So this is like the last straw for him. He has already dishonored himself and broken his vows, and now he has got caught up in this fucking plot, and he's lost. And this is a suicide mission.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I don't credit him as being quick enough in his thought to even think that through, to be honest. I want to say that you're right, because that does logically make sense, but I just don't find
it's not that kind of suicide. It's not that he weighed everything in the moment and made a choice to kill himself because he doesn't have anything left. Not in that kind of clarity that you're suggesting. Think of it much more as just a swirling in the brain of all the shit that just went wrong in the worst possible way it could go wrong. A swirling of all this guilt and self-loathing, coupled with this weird knight thing that he has because he's a fucking knight, and they do that, anything to protect my woman I love, or, whatever, right? And just sort of a maelstrom of all of that. And he just bolts forward. So I don't think he like weighed everything and said, my life's no longer worth living, so I'm going to kill myself. But when I say it's a suicide mission, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Basically like a sheer panic reaction.
Kind of, yeah. Fucking Hoda is just like, I'm gonna need all y'all to fucking chill, hand over my princess, or I'm gonna kill all of you except the child.
And there's a real sense to him, once again, that he could.
He absolutely could, and it's not personal. Like, this is not anything personal. He's not necessarily mad or disappointed in anybody. He's here because his boss told him, I need you to go do this. And he's a consummate professional. Yep. So he's here on his fucking boss's business and is like, I'm here to do this and this, and I'll just do those two things. But if you fuck around, you will have to find out. And I don't think anybody wants that. And Dre and Garen are both like, and they ease
Yeah,
up.
I gotta give them some credit here. There's, one could be like, well, you should put up more of a fight than that. For what? Why?
For why?
Good. Put your shit up immediately and just be like, all right, you know what? My bad.
Yep.
My bad.
And they draw, and they say, I love this. They say it out loud. Yielding seems to be the wisest course. They yell to Arianne as they're dropping their fucking weapons. And this is when Eris is just like, no, and puts his horse between Arianne and the armed men with like their crossbows and shit in like this protective thing.
Mm-hmm.
And announces to the world that you will not take her whilst I still draw breath. Like, so she's going home, sir.
Yeah.
This is a wrap. This is done. She's going home. You could have kept your mouth shut and maybe, I don't know, ran away in the night and maybe tried to have a life somewhere else. But instead, you do this stunt. And she's watching and she's just like, what are you doing? No, you don't need to do this. And Darkstar is just laughing. It's just fucking laughing. Are you blind or stupid? There's too many. Put up your fucking sword, dude. Like, everybody. And you know what's weird about this piece, though? Arianne, it says over and over, she's thinking this, she's thinking that. But there was no time to say it. She says, "You reckless fool," was all that she had time to think. What do you think you're doing? And then Darkstar laughs, and then she says again to herself only, "We are taken. Your death will not free us." But she doesn't say any of this out loud because it says when she tries to speak, the words caught in her throat. So she's thinking all this shit real fast, but she can't get any of it out. And then he just rides headlong, his little cloak flapping in the breeze behind him.
You called the little cloak. You did that little thing again. We've talked about this.
I can't help it. I cannot help it. I am a middle-aged black woman. I cannot help it. I never said it when I was younger. It just happens when you get to be like 42. All of a sudden, it just starts coming out of your mouth.
This little cloak flapping. Oh, you made it sound so embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
That's
he should be embarrassing.
That's a good point.
And so yeah, he runs headfirst into his death for no reason, really. And yeah, that shit goes right through his mail, and another one goes right through his, like, by his temple. I love this piece. It says, "No," some girl was shouting, some foolish little girl. "No, please, this was not supposed to happen." And then she says she could hear Marcella shrieking too. And then you're just like, oh, that's Arianne screaming. I love the way that's written. That's so well done. I love that line.
Yeah, agree. There's always it's a bit of a trope to be like, she could hear somebody screaming and then she realizes it's her that's screaming. And I still think that trope works but it's like,
I'm sorry, go ahead, and then I'll go. I was going to say, he literally did that in the Brienne chapter we just finished. When she's stabbing Shagwell, and it says something about hearing screaming and crying, and Brienne realized it was her.
Oh, like, right, yes.
He just did that. So it feels like he's going to do it again, but he just, like, switches it up a little bit.
There is one that I really particularly love, not from this book, but I'm just going to mention it because I just think it's so excellently done in the moment. It caught me off guard. There is, the woman who writes the alphabet mysteries. She died before she got to finish to Z. Yeah. She wrote one particular that was kind of dark. A lot of them have somewhat dark endings, but this one was a kid that was the murderer, and they were like retaliating against abuse, it turns out. And when she finally figures out that it was them and she tries to like find them, they are on the edge of a building and thinking about jumping off. And you really think she's going to be able to keep them from jumping. And she doesn't. And it's described how there's the sound of a siren, and then she realizes that it's not a siren, that she was screaming. And there was something about that moment for me of just like hearing it and assuming a thing, and as the reader immediately going with it. Of course it's a siren, like, you know, usually when you read this, you know, oh, she heard crying, and okay, yeah, I get what are we about to get? Oh yes, it was her. Shocking. But this was one where I really got tricked for a second, and then when I realized, especially because this was the main character tends to not be super emotional, it was just a really remarkable moment to me. But yeah, especially because it's like calling herself a foolish girl.
Yeah.
You know, the judgment of it, that she's just mad at herself here.
Yeah. And not just some foolish little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Some girl was shouting, some foolish little girl. So Aris, to his credit, even though we did clown him a little bit, he takes down like 2 or 3 guys, but it is not enough. As Darkstar pointed out, there's just too many. And he is taken down, and eventually his horse goes, and then he is like trying to get struggling to his knees, and Hoda is there, and took his arm off at the shoulder, came back again, took off his head, sent it spinning through the air, and the green blood swallowed the red with a soft splash. And it says Arianne did not remember climbing from her horse. Perhaps she'd fallen. She didn't remember that either. And yeah, she's just on her hands.
Do you remember that there was a point where she was talking about how she hopes that he's never going to have to fight Hota? Mm-hmm. And he's like kind of mad and like, I could take him. And I was just like,
Yep. That was it. And then somebody runs.
Yeah.
And it's
all very unclear. This is like very chaotic at the end here. Yeah.
It says she heard Hoda scream, you know, he must not escape after him. Marcella's still on the ground. They don't know what's happening. Arianne is confused. Men are all over the place trying to get on horses. It just says this cannot be real. I'll wake soon and laugh at my night terrors. She thinks she's like dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who they're after. I don't know who ran. I guess Darkstar is probably who. But see, I don't know. It could be any of them because now all this chaos, like they all dropped their weapons, but then this happens. So my instinct, I just said Darkstar, so I'm going to go with that, even though I don't know why I blurted that out. But maybe that's who ran. But and then there's a moment where it looks like they grab Arianne up and like snatch a knife away from her.
Mm-hmm.
And Hota tells her, the prince said, I must bring you back to Sunspear, he announced. And then he's just like, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, little princess. And she says, how could he have known about this? I was so careful. And Hoda says, someone told. Someone always tells. And if that is not the fucking moral of the goddamn story, I don't know.
Right.
That's everything you need to know about all these books, in my opinion. Someone always tells. That's it. That's the tagline for the entire series.
Do you have any theories on who blabbed?
I mean, it could be somebody in her party. That would break my heart. But it could have been like one of the people that I just met that I just was gushing over about how wonderful everybody seemed. It could have been one of them. But it also could have been any number of people in Dorne that I don't know. You know, household servants, people that were aware of the relationship with Aerys. How fucked would it be if it was Aerys that did it, and that's why he fucking let himself get killed here? But that doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to stick with that. But I'm just throwing it out there because, you know, why not? Why not? But,
why not? Yeah, may as well.
But yeah, I mean, no, I don't really have any theories. I don't want it to be any of the people that I just met on this little adventure. Mm-hmm. But I also get the feeling that the only people that were supposed to know about this plan were actually on this adventure. So I guess if I'm trying to be smart, my money should be on one of those people, but I don't want that to be the case. I'm hoping it's just
and we don't really
household
know
person.
like enough about them to assign like a motive.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, for all we know, somebody could have gotten hip to the fact that, you know, they weren't there. You know, that
true.
You know, I don't know how much this little girl knows. Like she knew it, and she understood that she is being made to look like Marcella and pretend that's who she is. But I don't know how much else she knows.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the guard that's trusted to pretend to be Eris. Like, how much did he know?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yep, it's true. And if you have I've talked a lot about how various parts of this book really highlight how no matter what you do as one of the small folk or a lesser person on the food chain, you are completely fucked because you are going to get punished no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you were put in the position of pretending to be the guard or the princess, and you know it's gonna be found out that they aren't here and that you will likely be held responsible somehow, it is kind of in your interest to just be like, hey, before they get too far, I'm not Eris Oakheart.
Yep.
Just thought you should know that.
Yep.
I am definitely a regular guy.
FYI, you
Yeah.
may have been wondering why I look shorter than usual. Let me tell you why. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, people like these characters, you know, and have these grand plots, you know, to rule or to be in charge or to get rich or whatever it is that their agenda is. And so often it involves the participation of the smaller folk who don't get a fucking vote on whether they want to participate in their bullshit. They just get commands, you know?
Yep.
I low-key love the idea that as soon as these motherfuckers were across the horizon, that guard and that little girl were immediately like, hey, hey.
I'm going to try and make this as easy on myself as possible and just let y'all know immediately because I have no interest in standing here until you figure it out.
I wasn't in a position to tell these people to go fuck themselves, so I had to go ahead and put this shit on my face and pretend like I was her. But I need you to know I am not invested in their success whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Just to be like, I don't particularly care who's king or whatever. That's not my goal was simply to be able to make it until the end of the day and not die.
Yep. Which is pretty
much
all I ask of every day. Like dealing with you motherfuckers, all I ask is, can I please just leave me out your bullshit so I can get through another day? Right? Can I live? That's really it. Meanwhile, all the highborn people are like, no, you can't. You're here.
Impudent to ask, actually.
If I can't figure out a way to make your existence serve me, then you don't get to fucking exist. Which is what they're telling us in real life, y'all, by the way. I don't know if y'all got the memo, but that's what they're telling us every day here, too. If we can't figure out a way to make our existence useful to them, then we don't fucking get to exist.
Yep.
How dare we want fulfillment and rest and health care. What do we do? We think we're people? We're not people.
Did you see that meme that was going around about billionaires, and it's the guys from Always Sunny doing the cry faces?
Yes.
Oh, can somebody not afford their insulin? That is the whole
They're wearing like
thing.
Top hats and shit.
Oh my god, it's so good. Anyway, so that's the end of those chapters.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say about this before I say hi to new patrons?
Oh, no, ma'am. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Wow.
Nope.
Wow. Okay, I get it. I can take a hint.
Eris couldn't.
Man. All right. So I'm so sorry, Sam, because you are sound asleep, but I'm just going to real quick. Hey! He didn't even turn around. Oh, nope, there he goes. Now he lifted his
Oh.
head. I didn't do it right by his head this time, though. I think that was really the
that's
problem
good.
last time.
That was a problem last time.
I forgot he was right there. This week, we have Michael Eskbacher. I hope I'm saying your name right, Michael. Thank you very much for becoming a patron. The only new patron of the week. So extra points to you in the imaginary point system that I have definitely created. You are going to want to go to checkmyunspoiledpoints.com to compare your points against the millions of other listeners to whom I have definitely assigned points. So cash those in for postcards. So I've mentioned already, but I just want to let everybody know that it's actually live. I thought it would take longer, but the thing with Patreon where you can follow and not have to pay, but you just get like updates about stuff, that is live. And now you can go and there's like all the tiers at the top that have the paid levels. And then right below that, it says join the community. I really, really would encourage everybody who just wants to like stay abreast of news to sign up there, because I recently I'm going to look now actually just out of fucking morbid curiosity, because it's going to make me mad and I don't need that, but I do want to know. So I have 3.8 thousand followers on my Facebook, and the average post reach that I get today, the last post that I made, I got 71 views.
71. Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Like, getting Facebook followers does not help me or matter at all. Nobody sees anything. So if you are somebody who's like, oh, I didn't know she covered that. Oh, I didn't know she started that. And you're always like, man, how do I keep missing stuff? You miss it because social media is trash. And the only other way I can like tell you guys stuff is via email, which I do not do because it's time consuming and just not fun to do. So please, if you're a fan, please go to patreon.com/unspoiled and just become a member of the community. And that way you will start getting info a lot. I'm going to start changing the way I share information as well, due to the fact that they have added this feature, and start just posting like at the start of the week, here's every live that's coming up and what days they're happening and where you can register to get a reminder and all that stuff. So do that. And also, if you're interested in trying out being a patron, we have a 7-day trial period now on the $5 and the $10 tiers. And you can just check out some of the patrons only stuff, see how Patreon works, whether you're liking it or not. And if you don't unsubscribe, then you get charged, but you can just drop being a patron after a week if you're just like, not really for me. And lastly, the collections thing I think was already live when I mentioned it last time. I've started making those collections for like patrons only shows. I will be adding more to that. But I think there was one other aspect to this, like change. I know that I can now share files, or sell files. So I'll be moving my sales for like Avatar: The Last Airbender and stuff to my Patreon soon from my website, because I would love, honestly, my main goal, if I'm being real, I would love to drop my website entirely. It is extremely expensive to maintain because I put files up that are my files numbers are crazy, and I have to pay an extra about $220 a month in storage because I have such data heavy like pages on my site. So if I could just have Patreon handle all that, it would be ideal. And I am not going to be moving to YouTube because they like took down my page for a day, and I'm going to stick with Crowdcast.
Cannot trust those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They yoinked your shit with the quickness for no reason. They
really did.
Like,
they put it back,
if you were...
but if I had been about to go live, it would have fucked my whole day up. So even though Crowdcast is not ideal, they are going to be sunsetting their version 1 in September. And a lot of the problems that I've been encountering and the other people are encountering are because they're trying to run version 1 and 2 together. Once version 1 is left in the dust, I think things will finally start to work a little bit more seamlessly. And they have also offered me a full year at my current rate.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
That's great.
So at first they were telling me like 3 months, which I was like, I'll take it, but Jesus. And now they're saying a year. And I'm like, that is a lot better.
That is really, that's awesome. Actually, I hadn't heard that yet. I'm so glad for you. Shit.
Me too. So those are the changes that are coming up. And if there's anything else that I'm, I might run into something because Crowdcast is going to have like a hour limit per month, and I may go over that. So there might be some adjustments that I have to make, but I'll keep you guys informed. But yeah, patreon.com/unspoiled, follow, become part of the community. And that way you will know all this stuff and it'll just be a lot easier for me to get the information to you. What were you going to say? You started to say something.
Oh no, I was going to, see, it was going to be, when you said an hour limit, I misunderstood and thought you literally meant an hour limit, but you meant there's going to be a limit to how many hours per month. But it took me a second to work it out, but I did get there and I wasn't going to bother you, but since you asked.
Yeah, I'm sort of the limit that they have currently for the highest tier is 40 hours per month. And I average about 44 per month. So I might have to figure out a way to like cut something. And I don't really know what that's going to look like, but we'll see. They've managed to give me a higher limit for the past few months. Maybe they'll just be nice and let me keep that. I don't know why they would, but who knows? I'm going to just try and be real sugary sweet. Except I definitely yelled at them recently. So maybe I'll have to. Oh, wow.
What is the opposite of sweet talk? Sour yelling.
Sour yelling. It's a Ted Lasso joke, guys. All right. Well, thank you all again so much for listening and commenting. I hope that those of you who are real into like discussion of things, definitely recommend joining the Discord because there's, a lot of chat happening in there. And I'm hoping that soon there'll be some chat happening on the Patreon a little bit more, because I think they're also going to start improving the way that commenting works, which has been part of why I don't reply to stuff a lot, is because they make it very difficult for me. So all kinds of improvements I'm very excited about. Huzzah. All right. Yeah, I said huzzah. I regret it already. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.